Welcome back to the King James Bible Sunday School channel on YouTube and Rumble. And I am here today with a good friend of mine, Darius Bethel. We're going to talk about mainly paragraph Bibles and the format of it, that kind of stuff, whatever we get into. But the you can already see, of course, my friend there on the screen. He's been my friend for a long time. I don't know how many years, actually, when we met. I know I've been saved for 30 years, and it wasn't too long after that we met and um, sparked a friendship, kept it mostly, uh, had some distance, but, we're good friends, and I enjoy talking to him every time I talk to him. And we were talking the other day with another friend of ours. Hopefully, he'll join us. But about a Bible that's being produced with the Psalms, the Metrical Psalms is called. So I have an old 1871 Bible, and I'm going to share a photo with you. It has the Metrical Psalms. Let's see. Yeah, let me pull this up, see if that's coming in right. Now, how's that showing up for you? You can see it?
I can I can see it pretty good.
Okay. Is it full size? What's going on here?
It's not
Hmm.
full size.
Hmm. Let me just go to this, see if it's any bigger. Is that better? Because I don't have really a
No,
view. Let's see.
it's roughly the same size, but I can see it fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let me
you got
that off.
Psalm 1 up to the beginning of Psalm 9, and
Yeah.
Psalm 9 says, "Lord, thee I praise with all my heart;
Okay.
thy wonders all proclaim."
Let's see why. I'm wondering just why I can't see the whole thing so that I can know exactly what's recording, but that's okay. That's fine. Oh, but yeah, this is what I found. And I mean, if you read Psalm 1 there,
Hmm.
it's not it's not like it's not the King James directly set to, a division.
Hmm.
It's slightly rewritten. I haven't gone through it all, but yeah, like that's what I'm seeing there. And from what I saw, we were talking about the Trinitarian Bible Society doing this with a Windsor text, and um, they also produced the metrical psalms by themselves in a separate book. And when I looked at that, it actually had a preview of a few pages. And so this is just kind of what I saw, rather than like being set to any kind of music or something like that, which I know has been done. And it sounded like you were interested in that kind of thing. Um,
Hmm.
this is a little bit different. This is also, I found a PDF of this, and I could send that to you if you want it. It's like 180 some pages. Let me see if I can share that. But yeah, I mean, this of course goes on, and I'm not showing but about half the page.
Wow.
And yeah, through the end of it. Of course, the page is over there as well. So it was interesting. Yeah, I knew that I had seen it before and was wondering, exactly how they're printing it. And I assume, like I said, that it's printed the same way. Let me pull this and share it. Pull that out of here. Um, yeah, this one. That should show up. And shrink that down for me.
It's a little different, isn't it? Let me see. It's a little different than before, isn't it?
It looks to be, I mean, this is the first words at least are the
Oh
same
no, no, no,
as
it's the
that
same.
other.
That's the same. No, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same.
And I mean, of course, what they're meaning by metrical apparently is um the beats, that man
Mhm.
hath perfect blessedness, who walketh not astray in counsel of ungodly men, nor stands in sinners' way. Like so
Right.
you're reading poetry
Yeah.
um rather than the exact words. And
I,
I I've seen before where somebody put psalms to music and stuff like that. Of course, there's one uh, I don't know. I wouldn't say most famous that I know of. This is the day that the Lord hath made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. Um, I forget the fellow's name right now. Let's see here. Oh, Les Garrett um, put that to music that way. And there's a video of him playing that on YouTube and so forth. But yeah. Um, but like I said, I can send this to you if you like it. Uh,
So what really got me interested in this, Don, is Psalm 119. When you read it in the Hebrew, not that I'm a Hebrew scholar here, okay, right? I mean, I never study any Greek or any Hebrew, almost never, But there was a time where I wanted to study the Greek and the Hebrew,
mm-hmm.
and one of the first things I discovered was that Psalm 119 started off every section started off with a Hebrew a letter, and then
Right.
that letter was prominent for every stanza of that particular section. And I thought that was so like neat that when they wrote Psalm 119, that they had was able to say all these things about the Word of God, right? But and then tying it to each letter. I just thought that was
Each letter of the Hebrew
just
alphabet.
right, right. And so that was one of the first things that got me interested in having the Psalms in a a metered or a way. I know that doesn't sound like what we talking about, but it just showed me that when the psalmist wrote Psalm 119, they had more in mind than just writing down the words. They had in mind writing the words, and even the way they wrote it was to kind of express how God is in every single alphabet and not just every word of his word of the word of God. And
Mm-hmm.
then later as I grew up, earlier on in my young life, at Faith Independent Baptist Church, uh, we used to listen to a lot of the songs that the children sung, and unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul, and they
Mm-hmm.
used to sing those Bible verses, and I'm telling you that brought so much joy to me. I find that the music industry is ripe and corrupt with false doctrine and selling things that God has freely given the people for money. Those things should be given away freely, and I find that the Psalms are the songs of God. In Ephesians, it tells us that that we should sing ourselves songs and psalms and spiritual songs, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's how I got there. But I'm sorry, I know I ran off on a tangent there.
No, that's fine. And I'm just learning a little bit about meter. So I don't know if you have a hymn book nearby, but um I recently bought Spurgeon's own hymn book,
Hmm.
and it's all written out just in poetry form. And a lot of old hymn
Hmm.
books were written that way with a meter set to it.
Hmm.
So it says something like 6.8.6.8.
Hmm.
And that's telling you basically what the beat is. And any song that has that. So if you go find Amazing Grace in the hymn book, most of the time you'll find those numbers um on, in some corner or something.
Right.
And so
Yeah,
it says,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
right. So then anything that you find in any of these hymnals, they can mix and match the tune and just go ahead and sing according to that. Um,
I'm sorry, Don.
that's okay. And like you said, the Psalm 119, I pulled that up here. If you can see it, I don't know.
I can.
Yeah. So in this, of course, it says Aleph, and then the first part and goes 8 verses, and then Beth, the second part, and so forth.
Hmm.
And that's in uh, most King James Bibles, at least printed by, Cambridge and Oxford. Uh, and I noticed that that was one of the things that sometimes was eliminated from like American printings or something to that effect.
Hmm.
Um, like all my Cambridge Concords cameos will have the Hebrew letter itself there, and then you know the word right next to it. So the King James retains at least telling you about that psalm, and I've heard that that's in some other places too. I want to say maybe in Lamentations, where there's
Hmm.
66 verses in one of the chapters.
Right.
I want to say that that's arranged that way too. For each of the 22 letters, there's like 3 verses or something like that. But I'm not
Right.
sure. I never dug into it. Um, but yeah, and like I said, I've seen some books. They may have some at Faith where the hymns are set to music in some way, but this itself would be a different way. It wouldn't, like I said, you wouldn't be actually quoting like the King James to, but you could sing Psalm 117, essentially the same thoughts and everything, but this would be
Hmm.
set to a certain tempo, and whatever
So, mhm.
whatever
So
hymn
what are
has that
your
same tempo would work.
right, right. So what are your thoughts about this, Don? I mean, coming. I mean, and maybe we don't. I don't know if we want to go there with this, but what are your thoughts as far as it being, I traditionally only read the King James, right? And I'm quite sure that's the same thing for you as well. When I look at this and it's not in the same way that I would read the King James, that bothers me for some reason. So,
Hmm.
so although I think it is definitely useful in memorization and helping with me being able to maybe sing a song to it. But I'm gonna tell you, I have a problem when I see things don't not read like the King James does for some reason. What are
Hmm.
your thoughts about that? You think I'm being overly uh critical of that particular this particular way of seeing it?
No, I don't think you're being overly critical. I guess I could see it a couple ways. I would think I'd have to go through it, but I would think that this is mostly a paraphrase to set it to a beat. And there's
Right.
not necessarily any problem with doing paraphrases. We do paraphrases all the time, explaining
Hmm.
scripture to people and stuff like that.
Sure, sure.
So I mean, I wouldn't say this is should replace in any way the Psalms, and I don't think it does in that particular Bible either. I think it's just an addendum to it, like
Hmm.
it was in the Bible I have. It's just at the end, and in the Bible itself, it's just regular. Um, so I mean, I don't have a problem with this in itself. Just aside, same way helps like the genealogies that were printed in the 1611 and a whole lot of subsequent, you know, King Jameses. They would
Hmm.
help you, in tracing genealogies without having to read through the text of Scripture constantly.
Sure,
Um, and some people like, especially visual aids, they've always been helpful.
sure.
Um, it looks like this also may have several versions. This says first version, common meter. and I don't see. Oh, second version, LM. I'm not sure what LM stands for. So, like I said, I just started looking
Hmm.
into meter just to try to see how to kind of sing Spurgeon's hymn book, you know.
Hmm.
And
Right.
it's amazing that they did that base in Spurgeon uh didn't have music. So they didn't
Hmm.
have the organ and so forth, or piano. They had somebody set the tune and say what it
Hmm.
was, basically tell the meter, and then they
Hmm.
sang, in harmony with each other. This is amazing, but I mean, you get used to doing that with thousands of people. It's probably not that difficult to for each of them to learn it.
Right.
Yeah, I think we would have problems in a small church of 15, 20 people
Hmm.
without that kind of thing. But yeah, as far as the text is concerned, I mean, it could bug me too. And as I went through it, if something was missing that I saw, I might have problems with it, but I don't necessarily have an issue with it being, just a paraphrased on the side or poetic version. Somebody
Hmm.
sets it to poetry and just says it's just an assisting thing. Um, so, but as far as like other things changing, that's probably a video for another time, really. But I do have what's called the Third Millennium Bible. And it came right after the 21st century King James, if you remember
Hmm.
those. They came out
Yep.
back in the 90s,
Hmm.
um, real close to 2000. And what I'm doing, I'm just now doing this really is going through that Third Millennium Bible compared to the King James Bible and
Hmm.
just seeing what they're doing. And same thing with what's called the Modern English Version. It's supposed to be an update, kind of an update in some way to the King James. But they're in the Third Millennium Bible, they, at least in the first couple chapters or so, they tried to keep it the same, to
Hmm.
be like this is it's just the same. And then but they changed certain things. It's a whole big deal. In the 21st century, King James came out with certain changes, and then
Uh-huh.
they got backlash on it. So then they came out with the Third Millennium Bible, and in the preface they said we're going to do this, this, and this. So they corrected their, misstep, and then they made
Hmm.
different errors.
Hmm. Right.
And then
Right.
of course it went around. The same publisher though came out in 2000, I think it was seven, with the Inclusive Bible, which is an inclusive gender Bible.
Hmm.
Long before the world thought of this stuff, the church was allowing it in. That just makes me mad,
Yeah.
And we were warned about. I remember hearing about that back in the day. It's like, why are they doing this gender inclusive nonsense? Not even talking about an
Hmm.
NIV,
Yeah.
but this company itself, published that, and I read some reviews as it were on Amazon, and
Hmm.
it was just like uh it was shocking to see what I was
Hmm.
seeing and how it lines up with what I knew.
Hmm.
LGBT communities and the Roman Catholic Church, this and that, and so forth. It was just like,
Hmm.
wow, these groups like really do fit the whole conspiracy theories that we were told we were believing
Hmm.
about
Right.
stuff.
Right. Right.
Like,
Right.
okay, great. And I don't know how recent those sales are and stuff. Like I said, this was back in 2007 that they put it out.
Hmm.
But I think that some of them were fairly recent. Like somebody bought the Inclusive Bible not too long ago.
Hmm.
But yeah, um, that's where I do have a problem. It's like that. So eventually, this Third Millennium Bible is gonna show differences, but it's got a lot of differences in like commas and colons and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And so I'm sitting there circling them, and I could show you but it's over there. Um, But it's just like, why are all these differences in the commas? What's the point? That's the first thing that comes to my mind is if you're gonna have it be the King James, just have it be the King James. Why are you
Right.
changing the comma and a period and not a period necessarily, just colons and semicolons and stuff? So that doesn't make any sense. But the modern English version has got a lot of different changes. And it's just like, well, okay. So it's like even more along the lines probably like the New King James, if you read that compared to the King James
Hmm.
in the first chapter of Genesis, you see those kind of differences. So, and again, it was like, what's the point? None of that was hard to understand, you know. It,
Hmm.
it's uh it's just it's strange. But and I don't think it's even more accurate, but that's getting into more details of the thing. But we should go on to look at some paragraph Bibles. I don't know how
Yeah.
long we've been going here, but
Not long. We
that's
just got
fine.
started. We
Let me
just got
X out of
started.
that.
And now I didn't know it was gonna go so fast through the metric, the metrical section. Like I say, I just learned about it from you and Khalif about
Hmm
3 nights ago, and I haven't had time really to look into it. That's the first example I got to see was tonight as you showed me, and I
Yeah.
do want to spend some time trying to think it through and read through them, and I want to read through them out loud. I often listen to Alexander Scourby, the Bible dramatized version just about every day of my life.
hmm
And it get to Exodus chapter 15, and they sing that song, I will sing unto the Lord,
Right.
for he has triumphed gloriously. And I'm telling you, and when I was going through a real tough time in life, man, and I was dealing with some very difficult things, I would just play that chapter over and over and over again. And I just wonder how much more blessed I would have been if I would have had something like the Psalms to sing in that same way. You know what I'm saying?
hmm
And so that's why I have had a huge interest in it since you said something about it, and I've been thinking about it again over the last year or so, uh, and over the last year or so, how good it would be to have it. But more importantly, too, sometimes when you're reading it, in metrical way, maybe the poeticness of the song will come out a little bit more than it does when we just reading it straight without that metered tone to it.
hmm
But I'm sorry, but thanks for at least getting me started on my journey on this down that path.
Yeah. No problem. Well, and I hope you can find something, like you said, just the Bible itself set to some tune, because I know it's out there. Like I said, I know those are out there. Um, I don't know if somebody's just done the Psalms or if it's, they've done various portions, you know. With some of our hymns have part I know whom I have believed and am persuaded that he is able uh passage of scripture. So
It's just
and we
it's amazing though, Don, that as long as Christianity, has perpetuated throughout the centuries, that someone hasn't taken those psalms and and put them to music and just put them to
mhm,
music just the way they are. As talented as some people can be and are in music, right now, I remember David Thompson would sing some of these songs. I mean, he used to sing this song in the garden, and it could be when you sing it from a hymn, it could be almost dry, right? But he sung it so well that it made me look at the words of that song, and it's now become one of my most favorite hymns of all time. But it's
yeah.
some great ones. It's a lot of great ones. But I just think that with some of the gifts that God has given men and women, it's amazing that they haven't taken those gifts and put those songs psalms to actual music like David was able to do as a
hmm
young man.
Right. And I don't know that I would say they haven't done it. It's just that we don't know as much about it probably as we need to
Yeah.
is a difference or It's just not standard across everyone, um, but yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Mhm.
And oh, we get to see what time we have left too. It's about 7 minutes. That's good time. Um, I mean, we could keep talking about Psalms and stuff like that, but we did get on here to talk about paragraph Bibles.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So let's see. Now this is you should be able to see this
I
still, right?
can. Hmm.
Um, the Cambridge Paragraph Bible, edited by Scrivener back 1873.
Hmm.
And he's got a nice little introduction, and all that. I'm gonna skip everything there though, and just go to the beginning of it. This is how that's set up.
Hmm.
And um, so like the see here, the verse references um are set in the margin in the center column.
Hmm.
So verse 1 and 2, he has his one paragraph, whereas our King James has it through the first day,
Hmm.
and and goes from there. So that's kind of how he's got that set up. Now this um also the when the revised version came out, they did this as well. So this is part of
Hmm.
the reason why he produced this was in some sort of preparation for that.
Hmm.
So they may have a very similar setup as far as paragraphs.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, there's that. And there's some other functions to this as well. And
Hmm.
I'm gonna move this out of the way. I of course shared on the other video. Let me stop this one and go out of that. And go to my camera. I showed this in. Let me share it though. There we go. That should pop up.
Hmm.
And we got about 5 minutes. So yeah, this is the New Cambridge Paragraph Bible, edited by David Norton,
Hmm.
and came out, I think, in about 2005 or so. Um, and he's got his introduction and all that. Now, where do I have it? I also have a leather bound copy of it from a few years later.
Hmm.
And let's just go to, let's see, Joshua chapter 9. And so this is how he has it set up. I think it was essentially the same way. Yeah. So he's got it set up where the verse numbers are inside of it.
I can't see the verse
Oh,
numbers.
there we
Oh
go.
yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, I see it.
All right. So, yeah, so like chapter 9 is got
Hmm.
verse 1 and then verse 2 right there.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then verse 3 that, and so it's throughout.
Right.
And he, of course, was doing this in some fashion of looking at the original 1611 and restoring things. Now, there's a note at the beginning of this one that says that there were errors in the first one that they
Hmm.
corrected then, in this one and some
Hmm.
other additions and stuff. Is a complete list is available from Cambridge. That's interesting. um, but yeah, that's another way. Now he completed also the paragraphs. I should have looked. I didn't look and see if Scrivener did that. I meant to
Hmm.
look at that. He of course did the Apocrypha as well, but in most King James with the Pilcrows, of course the paragraphs end in the book of Acts in the latter part.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is Second Corinthians, and they've put it all into paragraphs here.
Hmm.
And then of course, looking at one you have from church publications.
which is one of the
Mm,
best ones I might add.
all right. And we got a couple minutes left, so I wanted to look at it and just see the format basically. We'll start at the beginning. I like that they have little pictures in there and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I of course assume that it's in accordance with the Pilcrows until they're over. Um, but they do the paragraphs in the epistles, right? I haven't.
Yes. No,
Okay,
no, they don't. They don't. They. Oh,
they
you're
don't.
saying when they you talking about when they break you say explain what you mean when you say the paragraph in the epistles.
Okay, so I'm just looking at Titus, I guess, and I don't see a paragraph form there. It's just verses 1 through 16. Then chapter 2 is a paragraph.
Mhm.
Yeah, so they didn't break down any of those like the
Right.
new paragraph Bible does or some other
Mhm.
stuff. Okay. Okay, so I mean and I've only had some glances at this. I've read a little bit. Um but yeah, they put the verse numbers for the paragraphs there.
Mhm.
Not the paragraphs, but what's on the page rather,
Mhm.
and leave it out of the text entirely.
Mhm.
Which you said I think you like that.
So I do like that. I wish that they didn't give the extra spaces in there for when they went into the next chapter, the new chapter. Like, and then the
Okay, so
extra
like right
little.
there.
Yeah, I wish they didn't do that. The Bible, I mean, you wouldn't be so focused on finishing, one chapter at a time, and you just could just read through without
I see.
uh without a pause. I mean, a pause in, a true pause is at the end of the sentence, or maybe start a new paragraph. But
Mm-hmm.
uh but it's nonetheless it's still great. I mean, I don't know that I'm in chapter 5 unless I look at the top heading. So I can get very lost in the reading this Bible. I do not
Okay.
like the pictures. Unfortunately, I don't like the pictures. And one thing I wish they would have